A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornosky, and welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice, the program where we challenge toxic groupthink in the headline news, and we give you the perspective that's rooted in your family's interest, rooted in things like freedom and liberty, and making sure that we all take care of one another, neighbor to neighbor, not through government edict and government mandate, but through neighborhoods afire with the truth, with hearts afire with justice in mind, not phony platitudes. And so that's what you always get when you come to A Neighbor's Choice. If you're listening on radio, make sure you save it to this station because you don't want to miss this show. We have some of the most interesting conversations in broadcast media today. Also, if you're listening on our video streams on Facebook or YouTube, you're going to want to share those and subscribe to those channels. Stay in touch with us there. Or our podcast. We always enjoy hearing the emails and comments and feedback from our friends in the podcast mediums where we are. Always remember that our website for everything that we do, our podcast, our radio show, our articles, are available at aneighborschoice.com. So I'm going to jump right in it, and we're going to get into some of the things going on in politics today. So I'm just going to go through a few drive-by thoughts, that have been kind of percolating in my mind since we last joined each other. One of the things that I saw, Ali Alexander, who's a conservative activist, he said online yesterday, he said social distancing on stage, referring to the DNC Zoom video conference that they've been doing. He says social distancing on stage when they are likely being tested daily is the most bizarre psyop ever. Candidate spouses walked out together, not socially distancing. This is so dumb. American public, isn't this dumb? Bad programming. Trump and Pence should not make this mistake. And I think what it shows is that you see with the DNC this kind of globalist, McWoke, giant corporation, very vanilla, very, very corporate, very fake, very old, outdated media. It's just not the same luster that this old trick of mass media of trying to have this corporate vanilla, talking point driven. You have these, kind of vanilla PR firm tested, focus group approved language that all looks like one giant sleazy advertisement for something rotten at its core. And I think we see that. We see through it better. Thomas Sowell had a post that I thought was interesting. He said Barack Obama's political genius is his ability to say things that will sound good to people who have not followed the issues in any detail, regardless of how obviously fraudulent what he says may be to those who have. It's a very well put point, because that's exactly what you see with Barack Obama. He talks a big game, and I you know what? That's great to have great rhetoric. It's okay. But back it up. And he just doesn't back it up. Trump didn't start new wars. Obama certainly did. And so for someone who likes to use soaring rhetoric and make sure he's got a little glimmer of a tear in his eye, trying to act like he's some kind of cultural figure for beauty and kindness and tenderness and all this stuff. And it's just so fake when it takes 2 seconds or half a second to recall the carnage and mayhem that he unleashed in bigoted wars around the world for no reason other than he was being a good servant of the establishment interests that make money off of war. There's just too much money to be made in this war machine complex that we have. And it reminds me of something that we've, continue to see that I think is a big, big point not to be, ignored, which is the Republican neocon war hawks continue to join the stage with the Democratic Party. You have Colin Powell, you have Mitt Romney, you have John Kasich. All these guys continue to make their alliance with their liberal allies very apparent. And I think, this is a big, 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 big mistake, because the corporate press has been excited to gleefully comment how many Republican establishment figures connected to the Bush era conservatism continue to signal their alliance with their Democrat friends, Obama, Biden, Clinton, and so forth. And again, this could have worked maybe in a world in which you had 3 media outlets. It's not going to work anymore, because you can see the different angles. You can see the different, the internet has given us this infinite memory where we're able to recall any events on the digital archives pretty much and that extends our ability to remember the things of the past and to kind of keep them in mind as we look at these little corporate focus group approved little propaganda experiences, like trying to tout Republicans joining Biden as some kind of hallmark for folks to consider. I think they're really making a big mistake here, because fundamentally, Americans like underdogs. And when they see that two parties are joining together, like they did last time, to signal united disinterest against a candidate, that is an intoxicating message for the broad, independent America to go the opposite way. If you have an establishment system that people know, whether they're independent, left, right, whatever, they know that the system is so rotten and so rigged and so corrupt and so ruinous of their economy, or so ruinous of their paycheck, their savings account, their future. And also, they see that these figures that come out front and center, joining hand in hand with their Democrat buddies. Notice the Republicans who are doing the signaling the most. The Lincoln Project, these different groups, they're all the ones that love the bloody wars. Wars that happen to disproportionately target people of color around the world. Those are the ones the media heralds. They herald Republicans who want perpetual war. You don't see Republicans who are against bloodshed of innocent children around the world. You don't see those folks coming over to join Biden. You see the opposite. You see the ones who are most shamelessly always lying the public into disastrous wars abroad. Those are the ones that stand shoulder to shoulder with Biden, Clinton, Obama. What does that tell you? What does that tell the independents of America? They don't want those wars. The independents, a lot of the Democrats, a lot of the Republicans, they didn't want the war in Libya. They didn't want the war in Iraq shortly after they realized what they had been sold a lie about. They don't want to stay in Afghanistan. The troops don't want. 70+% of veterans want us out of Afghanistan. They didn't want us in Libya. They don't want us in Syria. They don't even want us in Yemen. The public is on the side of peace, and the media and the stupid TV party. And it is stupid, because you'd think with all your little Madison Avenue advertising, giant corporations, and all your money that you guys have on your side, that you would be able to have someone in the room tell you, guys, it's going to backfire to do a whole united front against Trump, and to unite that front based on our mutual love of war and carnage and destruction of people of color around the world. That's what Colin Powell and Romney, that's what the Bushes did. They carved up the world on behalf of banks and big corporations that seem to like to have that kind of policy continue uninterrupted. And Trump, to his credit, has not started a new war. And that's too much for them. That's the elephant in the room of why you see the donkey and the elephants united against Trump. They cannot stand that someone would mess with their precious war state. There's just too much money at stake. And they expect you to not be American and be, Americans love an underdog. And if you see everybody unite like bullies against one guy, and you say, wait a second, what are they all united around? What's their common thing? They're saying it's love and decorum and presidential and just excellence and all these stupid buzzwords. But we all know the obvious fact. They're united in their love of war. The love of evil wars that are anti-American, bankrupting our country, dishonoring our veterans, and destroying the lives of innocents for no reason. And we see through it, and doing this is going to totally backfire. Back in just a moment on A Neighbor's Choice. David Granosky here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
Here's one thing you can scratch off your to-do list without going anywhere, without any out-of-pocket cost to you, and even get up to $150 cash back. Get that crack in your windshield fixed by calling Auto Glass America. They'll come to you, and with comprehensive insurance coverage, there's no cost to you. Call Auto Glass America now and fix that pain in the glass with premium glass and a lifetime warranty. Call 813-96-GLASS, 813-96-GLASS. Auto Glass America.
Do not stop taking the prescribed medication without first consulting your doctor. Discontinuing without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Attention Zantac users. The FDA requested that manufacturers pull Zantac and products containing ranitidine off the market, noting exposure to unacceptable levels of a cancer-causing agent. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with cancer after regular use of Zantac or ranitidine products, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Call Action Legal Group now for a free consultation. Call 866-321-1729. That's 866-321-1729.
Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Granosky, your host. We're live broadcasting from the Sunshine State. And I'm looking at this story. A big story in politics today is that Steve Bannon has been arrested in a fundraising scheme, accusations of wire fraud, money laundering as part of a border wall campaign. It was something called We Build the Wall or something. And, according to CNBC, he is called We Build the Wall. And he was charged with defrauding hundreds of thousands of donors for a private We Build the Wall fundraising campaign. And Bannon and three others were indicted in a federal investigation in the Southern District of New York. Prosecutors alleged, according to CNBC, the four defrauded donors by raising more than $25 million to build a wall along the southern border of the United States, but some of that money was used for personal gain. The United States Postal Inspection Service assisted in the investigation. Isn't that nice to know you have such an impartial factor in your mail-in ballot election there? The campaign, now I've seen this private border wall thing a little bit, and you can see that they were building stuff with it, so I don't think it was a total scam. I don't think that's what's being alleged here. I think it's something to do with the founders, using the nonprofit to take too much personal income out of it or something. So the way they did it. And so you look at that, and I don't know enough about these kind of laws or this kind of issue to weigh in on that legal side of that and, how this case stacks up. But you see the obvious thing, the Southern District of New York, the same one that announced that they're going, I believe the same one that announced that they're going after the NRA, right? Well, that was the Attorney General of New York. And they wanted to put the NRA out of business. Southern District of New York is the one that's investigating everything they can find on the Trump presidential, the inauguration thing. They were doing something on that. And then they were also doing something on his charity, right? And then doing something on his taxes. And I mean, look at that stuff. And again, the TV party thinks that this is 1970. They're so stupid. I mean, look, it's not like they don't have some obvious power. They do, but they're using old 1970, and that's being generous there. That's like 1970 style political hackery. Because it's obvious that what they're doing is they're creating a just us system, a system in which if you're for perpetual war, if you're for perpetual bailouts, if you're for perpetual government expansion for the protection of corporate interests and throw communist scraps like so-called garbage-free college and garbage-free medicine like they offer the public, if you're for the perpetual, globalism of looting the middle class through rigged trade deals, if you're for these endless wars overseas, then you get to play by one set of rules. And anybody who dares to challenge that will be investigated and tried to be put in prison. That's what they're trying to say here. And they think that the public is still in 1970s or something where we got 3 TV channels, 3 newspapers, and somehow, we can't see through this banana republic way of doing. Doesn't mean that there isn't something legitimately wrong with whatever is being alleged against Steve Bannon and whatever. It's just clear that the idea of there being equal justice for all is a total joke. It's a total joke for the average American who doesn't have the access to a fancy attorney like the elites can afford. It's a joke for folks who have their money taken from them by civil asset forfeiture just because they're driving a car that looks too fancy for them or they have too much cash in the car. They can have that money taken, have that car taken without any evidence as the basis, and very difficult to have any recourse. It's a just us system for the establishment, the one-party establishment in which Democrats and Republicans work hand in hand together, taking care of their own and anybody who's different. Because again, Steve Bannon is closer to the politics of the Southern District of New York and their allies in the Democratic establishment. They're closer politically together than I am to either of them, of these folks. And yet, it's clear that they want to use a justice system that goes after every little thing they can find on anybody who dares to challenge the grifting, the use of your money to hand out to friends, the use of the State Department as a pay-to-play scheme, like what was clear was going on with Hillary Clinton. Look at what Hillary Clinton did with the people in Haiti, gutting that country's wealth, giving gold mining deposit access to her brother. How ridiculous. Giving cell phone deals and all this crooked stuff. Nothing. Not a word. Nothing. That's a rigged game. That's a banana republic. And it's been going on for a long, long time, right? But they think that it can continue to go on without any public challenge because they don't understand how much the media environment has changed the culture. Now, having said that, it's clear that in the short term, they're going to continue to go wild at attacking the rule of law, attacking political opponents of war, because Steve Bannon, again, he has his own philosophy. I'm not aware of all of his views, but he has his own different ideas, and that's fine. Different philosophy perhaps than mine, but one thing is clear, he didn't want to go off to endless wars. That's what he kept saying. I kept hearing whenever I'd see him talk, he said no more endless wars. He was a big proponent of that in the White House. So he goes to prison, or he's going to be, he's in jail. He's going to go on trial now. Meanwhile, the Clinton Foundation, look what they did to Haiti. Look what they did to countries all over the world. Look at what Ilhan Omar did with her campaign funds, dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into her boyfriend or whatever. It's a rigged, two-tier justice system. Those who are for perpetual killing of people around the world with the war machine, and those who want to say, hey, just stop a little bit, they're the ones that go to prison. All the ones that go along with the status quo of the expansion of government power, the intrusion and attack against the family, the attack against decency and beauty. And anyone who challenges that whole hive mind, groupthink consensus in D.C., they get the book thrown at them, and the folks who are for war and violence, they go on doing whatever they do. You can run on for a long time, but in the end, there's someone else that judges. Back in just a moment.
You know what time of year it is.
Hurricane conditions in the next 36 hours.
You know what hurricanes can do.
Devastating damage expected.
Well, we want you to know, no matter how bad things get,
Power outages. This is life-threatening.
you can stay up to date with the latest information here. Your home for news, talk, and information. And remember, we'll keep an eye on the tropics. You keep an ear on us.
Got batteries in the flashlight.
The all-new News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Yeah, we got our radio.
In Lower Manhattan today, White House former strategist Steve Bannon appearing via video in court, entering a not guilty plea to federal fraud charges, alleging that Bannon used donor money from the crowdfunding We Build the Wall campaign for his own personal expenses. 3 other defendants were also indicted. Bannon arrested aboard a yacht in Connecticut this morning. Postal inspectors escorted by the Coast Guard to make the arrest. Earlier today, the president weighing in, calling the project, quote, inappropriate.
I know nothing about the project other than I didn't like, when I read about it, I didn't like it. I said, this is for government, this isn't for private people. And it sounded to me like showboating, and I think I let my opinion be very strongly stated at the time. I didn't like it. It was showboating and maybe looking for funds.
After Kamala Harris made history last night as the first woman of color nominated to a major party ticket, Joe Biden will make his acceptance speech at the final night of the Democratic National Convention that takes place in Wilmington, Delaware. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Hello, David Gronowski here. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. Just reflecting on the Just Us system that we have in place today, where if you're poor or middle class, you get a rigged game. You get civil asset forfeiture, where your money's taken from you just because you drive a nice car. And say, I don't know, maybe you're a drug dealer. You got a nice car, living in a not so nice neighborhood, or oh, you got too much cash on hand. Who would hold cash but a bad guy, right? What the heck? And they can take that money, and you have a very difficult time getting it back, getting the car back, whatever. No due process afforded to you. Then you have a system where you go to bail and you can't afford it because you're not rich. Whereas rich people, they get really nice deals. Then you have a system where you have nonviolent crimes. Nonviolent crimes where you can go to prison for being an Amish farmer making soap. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton can loot the country of Haiti during a horrible natural disaster for her family, and nobody says a word. She goes on Ellen DeGeneres, everybody's programmed. Oh, look, it's our hero. That's a rigged, sick system. It's just a total upside-down culture that we're living in. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we continue to let our children be inculcated and catechized by a government monopoly school system. I'm telling you, that's the key issue at stake with a lot of this stuff. That's the key thing that nobody wants to talk about. And also has something to do with our churches not standing up for what it means to be on the side of the Prince of Peace and what that looks like at the ballot box, what that looks like around the world, what that looks like in our neighborhoods. But nevertheless, I digress just for a moment. We have a system that's just us, just the elites who want war and bailouts and identity politics and don't want to see the dignity of the human person and protect life, both unborn and born, both ones who are poor, those who are abroad in other countries. And you cannot be for social justice or any kind of justice and be for this awful war machine that both parties have partaken in, and that Trump has done the least, it seems, in starting new wars. So let's take a clip from this recent episode of Tucker Carlson, which aired last night with noted progressive Jimmy Dore, a comedian. We're going to hear a little bit from him in reference to the war machine and the unity of the neocons and the Democrats on display during the DNC convention. Let's roll the tape.
Joining us tonight, we're happy to have a man from the left, Jimmy Dore, who's going to take a lot of heat for coming on the show, but we're happy to have him anyways, the host of the Jimmy Dore Show, and he joins us now. Jimmy, thanks so much for coming on. So, well, go ahead.
Thanks for having me.
So last night, I mean, I'm sure there are lots of things in the Democratic platform you agree with, but the emphasis last night on just pure neoconservatism, just flat out, we're going to get us more involved in Syria. Where did this come from exactly?
Well, the Democratic Party is a pro-war party. I mean, there was a piece of policy, it seemed, that everybody agreed on was that the Iraq war was a good idea. That's what it seems like. Those are the people that they have come on to endorse Joe Biden, the architects of the Iraq war. And you don't think this is a failed party?
Yeah. The one person who wasn't invited, you'll notice, was Tulsi Gabbard. This week. By the way, you got all the neocons in the Democratic Party. Good luck. Have a great time with them. They're the best. Jimmy Dore, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I hope it's worth the abuse you're going to take. Appreciate it.
I'm going to take it.
Yes, you are.
So, you know, it just illustrates for us that clip from Tucker Carlson from last night with Jimmy Dore, who is a progressive Democrat, okay? He's a stand-up comedian, but he actually has a conscience. See the difference between the Muppets they put on the DNC and a real progressive. See, I have no problem. You notice when I talk, I don't use the word progressive to describe the folks that I'm challenging, their ideas, right? Because they're not progressive ideas. What I talk about is progress. What I talk about is having cold fusion energy too cheap to meter. I talk about having, recyclable elemental transmutation of recyclable trash materials. I talk about, let's cure cancer without any toxicity, without using any side effect riddled diseases. Let's deal with heart disease. Let's deal with diabetes. That's progress. That's what we call progress, right? What these folks that we hear from the DNC talk about is regressive. It's not even that. It's reactionary. They're the reactionaries. They're reactionaries because they react to the progress of the American people coming to realize that the war machine that has been lying to them is just that, a crooked, lying machine. And they're realizing that it's not serving anybody's interest, nor is it anything to do with social justice to go around occupying people of color around the world. And so they react to that progress at the DNC by turning on the hate fest against anybody who dares to push for peace. As you could tell, Tucker Carlson was indicating the fact that Jimmy Dore will get extreme amounts of hate from a party where many of their members put their little bumper stickers. Hate has no home here. They put those little yard signs out and they put the little bumper stickers. Love trumps hate, except for when Trump wants to stop bombing people of color around the world. Then you're not so lovely, are you? Sad, isn't it? Isn't that sad? How you can be that contorted morally, that you think you're on the side of love, and then you go and vote for these corporate hacks, these corporatists at the DNC. Well, the real progressives, they're standing united with folks like what we do on this program and Tucker Carlson, where we challenge the hateful machine that Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris and Biden and Obama are totally on board with. So if you are a young person and you're real, motivated about social justice, let me tell you something. You forfeit your social justice when you vote for a Biden and Kamala Harris that are going to expand wars overseas. Their whole DNC platform, their convention has been one giant sales pitch for the status quo continuing. Nothing progressive about it. Nothing socially just about it. And, there are a lot of folks who saw the video of George Floyd being killed by that police officer, and they rightfully recoiled because it's wrong to treat a person made in the image of God like that. And we know that, and that is true. But how many folks would be recoiled if you saw the cell phone videos of what Barack Obama, Biden, and Clinton did to thousands and tens of thousands of folks in Libya? If you saw the videos of what that looked like, we saw a glimpse of that with Gaddafi. But because he was a dictator who was brutal in his own right, there was a little bit of a pass that the media could try to muster up to justify that brutal lynching on our government's behalf by the mob. But if we saw the videos, the cell phone videos of what goes on in Syria on behalf of the social justice warriors like Oprah Winfrey and Obama and Clinton, these folks that push for this kind of politics to continue. And yes, Oprah is included, Ellen's included, all your favorite little Muppets on television, they're included because they always push these candidates. They always push these candidates. They don't push, they attack Tulsi Gabbard when she criticized the war. Tulsi Gabbard did all the politically correct stuff. So that tells you, folks, this is how you know what the DNC really stands for. Because when you look at Tulsi Gabbard, she's very socially justice language oriented, right? She uses all the socially just, politically correct language. And she's a woman of of color. She is a woman of a different, minority religion. She has all the different, check marks that identity politics in the DNC requires to be considered a legitimate, hero for the state. And so she has all those things. And yet they couldn't take her having a platform. That's why Oprah didn't fawn over her like she will for Kamala Harris and Biden. That's why they won't fawn over Tulsi Gabbard. They will attack Jimmy Dore because he says, I stand up for the innocent people, including the millions of people of color overseas that Oprah and Ellen and Rosie O'Donnell and Stephen Colbert and NBC, CBS, ABC, New York Times, Washington Post, NPR, every little CIA, FBI, all those little Mickey Mouse organizations, all of them continually want to keep making absolute mayhem about. So if you saw the remember, everybody was marching in the streets, and I'm talking to the folks who are most in tune with social justice right now. I want you to think real hard about this. If you saw the cell phone videos for what Obama and Clinton and Biden did to the people in Libya, if you had to watch those videos, just like you watched the George Floyd video, remember you said everybody must watch that and everybody needs to think about camp breathing. Let me tell you, there are a lot of people who couldn't breathe in Libya because of Barack Obama. There were a lot of people who could not get their breath that was their God-given right because of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in Syria. So he puts that little tear in his eye. And you have to have a choice as an adult. Am I going to be a kid? Am I going to be a stupid dupe and say, oh, he's got a tear, therefore he's righteous? Or am I going to look at the reality that is right in front of your face? How many children can't breathe because of what Syria had to go through on behalf of special interests who wanted regime change over there? John Kerry pushing and shilling for war and regime change chaos in Syria. Trump tries to pull half the troops out of Afghanistan, and your stupid social just hack outlet, New York Times, says, no. If he does that, that means he's Putin's stooge. You cannot be. So let me tell you, if you're listening right now and you march for George Floyd, you cannot march in good faith and then vote for a Biden Kamala Harris. You are endorsing the most antisocial, unjust thing you could ever do, which is to occupy people of color around the world, and any people, but I'm using the language that I know you guys have been programmed like robots to be emotionally manipulated by, because that's the only way you can get into the heads of folks who are so stuck in that TV hive mind. So you don't hear the word people as relevant enough. So you have to use the language that you have been programmed to find so much social justice fervor about. So you use the word people of color. Okay. Well, the people of color in Syria can't breathe because of what Barack Obama did. Are you okay with that? You cannot march and say, I support Black Lives Matter, and be okay with electing the same crooked cabal who unleashed a 2 million to 3 million person slave trade in Libya right now. You can't pat yourself on the back and say, I am socially just because I read the New York Times 1619 Project. Meanwhile, you're sitting there electing the same cabal that created a slave trade going on in Libya right now. You just can't do that. The same clique that's bipartisan. You just can't do that. It just doesn't ring true. It's not socially just. So you can march, but you're not a social justice warrior if you're going along with these folks who have continually pillaged, disenfranchised, and destroyed the lives of millions of people around the globe. Their colors have come out. We see what they really stand for. They stand for war. if they cared about social justice more, then they could go with Tulsi Gabbard. That way they could get the identity politics checked off. They get universal health care like she promoted. They get Green New Deal type stuff like she promoted. They get big taxes. They get all the infrastructure spending like she wants. You get all the free gimme giveaway stuff that she was promoting. The only thing you don't get, Democrats, is your precious war against people of color overseas. And that's just too much to ask, isn't it? You just can't give that up, can you? And that's why you show your true colors. And that's why you embrace John Kasich and all these little yesterday news, boring, oatmeal Republicans, because you've always been on the same side. And we've seen it for a long time. And now, low information folks who've been watching these media outlets, because you're being too stupid and bold and embracing your one-party machine, now they're getting to see it too. And now the public is going to wake up increasingly so. Your cat is out of the bag. We see the magic trick of trying to act like there's two parties, but they're actually united in war. And we're going to reject it fundamentally because there is no place for that kind of barbarity in the future of America. Your days of going to war are numbered. The war machine will not continue in the name of God. We claim victory over that satanic enterprise, and we kick it to the ash heap of history. Back in just a moment. David Granosky here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for the loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years in practice. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa.
Not attorney spokeswoman.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood, and the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
So I don't use that word progressive to describe the DNC. They are nothing to do with progress. They're reactionaries, and they are showing their true colors by joining hand in hand with their designated losers on the Republican side. See, the Republicans have always been like the Washington Generals, that team that plays the Harlem Globetrotters. They're designed to just be the designated losers, the alternate team that switches in every now and then just to spruce up the place and make the folks at home in the heartland feel like, oh, look, there's actually a contest going on. Meanwhile, they're just arguing over, should we take the loot and give it here or there? Should we do $10 trillion in loot or should we do $8 trillion? Which one? And they fight tooth and nail over that stuff. But if you come and mess up their system, boy, they come united against you. And one thing you have to give Trump credit for is that he hasn't started a new war. And that's the real elephant in the room as to why the Republicans and Democrats are united against him. That's why they, they'd rather have the folks like, Kasich and Romney and Colin Powell and all those warmongers on there than Tulsi Gabbard, because that's what they believe. They don't care about the social justice stuff. That's just what they sell people who are low info, who get emotionally, manipulated by those lies. And it just doesn't work. Just like all the other fake Hollywood productions and TV shows that have been destroyed by the pandemic lockdown and the political fear campaign, where they now do these shows without their live audiences and fancy productions and fancy teams and graphics is a little bit toned down. Now we see these little establishment clowns and jesters doing it from their home studio, and none of their jokes have any resonance. They didn't have much before, but they had the mimetic peer pressure effect of seeing a big crowd laugh, and it kind of makes it contagious for those at home to, oh yeah, I guess that's funny. But without that crowd and all that fancy effect, all these late night comedians are just boring, tired PR representatives for a dying status quo. And just like those things are now being brought down to a reckoning, because we just look at that and say, these are boring programs. I'm not watching this garbage anymore. It's not exciting. It's not above us. Then you see these stale old crooks at the DNC doing their little speeches in front of a drab, boring background with, again, no crowd, no camera tricks, no nothing. And it just looks like old wrestling videos cutting promos. It's boring. It's like, this is so weak and pathetic. Americans love an underdog. We're haunted by Christianity's influence against scapegoating. We are haunted by Jesus saying, leave the 99 and go after the one. So when the media tries to do their trick of saying, hey, look at these 99 Republicans and Democrats united against Trump, it's going to backfire. I'm saying this whether you like Trump or not. Whether I like Trump or not, it's going to backfire. You cannot play this game in a culture that has been so totally inculcated by what Jesus has said. Every time you try to turn a scapegoat mob against an underdog, it backfires. And whether, Bannon is guilty or not, just seeing that the only people that ever get the law thrown at them are people who challenge the status quo, people who are challenging the war machine or any of it, that's going to backfire too, because the Americans don't like seeing underdogs bulldozed and bullied. Even if there's blame on both sides, which there is, they're always going to be repelled by ganging up. It's wrestling. Politics is wrestling. You ever seen the wrestling characters in the old days where you have 20 characters come out and surround one character and beat him up, and then he fights them all off? Why does the crowd go crazy for that? Because Americans in the West we love underdog stories. Everybody does in the world. I'm just saying in particular, the West has a real love with those things. And so politics is a story, character-driven, persona-based performance art, just like wrestling. And anytime these establishment hacks try to they're just so clueless. All the money in the world can't give them common sense. Like what I'm telling you right now. The media is going to ruin their attempt to destroy Trump, because whenever the public sees 99 characters united from all factions against one, the media thinks that we're going to say, oh, you must be the monster. But because we're in a Christian environment, a Christian culture, it does the opposite effect. It makes us say, oh, that's not the monster. That's the underdog. That's the misfit. That's the Galileo. And they'll go towards Trump. So they keep doing this, and I'm telling you, Trump's going to get elected very easily. Another story I saw, Michael Malice, who's a commentator, he posted online, the story of 2020 that no one dares write is that we have reached a point where nationwide violence has become normalized and valorized. This should be extremely disturbing to everyone. And I agree. It's a good point. It's something I talk about. It's something that I think is a scary moment, is to see, because of the pressure cooker environment of the politically blunderous fear campaigns, bullying campaigns, and forced lockdowns, which have wrecked people's lives and health, wrecked their immune systems, wrecked the economy. It's put people in a situation where all of a sudden they've been normalizing and valorizing, as he says, people going out in the streets and hitting and hurting people who are innocent just to take out their aggression onto scapegoats. This too will backfire because we're in the master of history's storyline. And wherever you try, you can run, but you cannot escape. You cannot escape the pricks. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. The master of history, Jesus. We're in his fishbowl. We're in his rules. And in his rule, if you try to scapegoat someone and bully someone, it's going to backfire. And it's going to create a fervor of social power around the person who is being bullied or outnumbered or marginalized. That goes for anybody. And identity politics is trying to ruin that, but it cannot compete with the real thing, which is the personhood revolution of Jesus. I'm David Gronowski. Godspeed.